Even after becoming king, Louis XIV was still faced with a nobility who were pushing back against him. And, he was able to get them to promise to tone down and curtail their rebelliousness, their criticism of the king. And part of the deal he made, he basically said that, look, I've now become the king of France. I need some time to get myself into a place where I can rule. I really rely on Mazarin, but I promise you this, if you stop your problems, if you stop the rumblings of further discontent, I promise you that I will fire Mazarin. And they do agree upon it. And, Louis is going to be a man of his word. Mazarin would be fired from office in 1661 when he died. Louis said, "Look, I am firing Mazarin because he cannot do his job." So the real intrigue became who is going to be the king's prime minister. And the nobles turned their attention from trying to limit the power of the king to trying to gain more power for themselves. And what's going to happen is Louis is going to shock them all when Louis is going to name himself as his own prime minister. It's not really the title, but he names himself as being, the man who is not only going to rule the country as king, he is going to handle the day-to-day affairs of government. Something that had really kind of been unheard of in the nobility of Europe at that time. So, it's no surprise that, right here at the beginning of his rule, Louis is setting up this absolute control. It was once rumored that Louis was said to have said, "L'État c'est moi," or "I am the state." Now, we don't know whether or not he did say this, but it is going to become a reality. And, soon after he makes himself the prime minister, he does away with a lot of the systems of government that were in place. He's going to be on the throne for 61 years, and he's never going to call upon the Estates General of France, which was kind of like the representative body of the three estates of the clergy, the hereditary aristocracy, and the population. Louis doesn't see the need to have a parliament, as all of his decisions are going to be final. Now, Louis is not going to do it on his own. One of the things that Louis is very good at is he is going to bring in very capable ministers. Prior to this, a lot of the important jobs that existed within the French government went to noble families. But Louis assured the nobility that they have a more important role than, administrative work. He needs them to be close to him in order to ensure that his reign is successful. So he's going to bring in very intelligent men to help him to rule. One of these men is a guy by the name of Jean-Baptiste Colbert, and he is going to be one of the most important ministers within Louis's cabinet. Colbert is going to rebuild the French Navy. He's going to rewrite the French Code of Law, which is going to really kind of lock in this absolute monarchy. On top of that, he's going to establish national academies of culture. He wants France, as does Louis XIV, to be the cultural center of Europe. He wants to take that out of Italy and put it there in Paris. Remember, he wants to be an absolute monarch. He wants this perception that the world revolves around him. And so by doing that, he's going to make sure that he sets the cultural tone of Europe. Colbert also, in his free time, was Louis's finance minister. And when Louis takes the throne, France is going to have a 22 million franc debt. By the time Colbert leaves office, France is going to have a 29 million franc surplus. So, he is going to turn the economy of France around, making it the most prosperous country in all of Europe. And the most amazing thing is he's going to do all this without raising taxes. He's going to come up with new methods of collection. He's going to expand France's exploration and its settling of, the Americas, and he is going to ensure that the money is spent properly, and that way Louis can create this illusion of a culturally a cultural center of Europe, a prosperous economic center of Europe, with him as its main monarch. So this is all part of Louis's greater plan. The other man that's going to be really important to Louis is a guy by the name of the Marquis de Louvois. Louvois was Louis's Minister of War and was responsible for basically reforming the French army. One thing that was abundantly clear with the 30 Years' War is that the French army wasn't quite working. With France working its way to becoming the cultural and economic center of Europe, it needs to be the military center. So prior to coming into power, the French military only had 20,000 troops. Louvois saw this as being a problem. Most of the French troops were basically conscripted. You had farmers and blacksmiths and men from all these trades coming in and serving when called upon. So Louvois decides that he is going to make the French have a military of 400,000 men. He's going to introduce new ranks for field officers who actually would lead their men into battle, not just nobles who had, honorary titles. Promotions would now be based on merit as opposed to being paid for as it was before. They want the best officers in place. They want soldiers to be trained in the art of fighting, much like they saw in England. On top of that, they recognized through the 30 Years' War that one of the major issues that they faced was a supply chain issue. So they're going to set up storehouses throughout France, which would speed up, supplies to the forces. Soldiers would be paid well. They would be provided uniform and housing, not only for themselves, but for their family. And this is going to really make these men very loyal to that of the king, as opposed to loyal to those who paid them and the rich. So now that he's got his army, he's got his economy, he's got his cultural center, he needs a place to become, the home of all this. And it's here that Louis is going to create the beautiful Palace of Versailles.